Welcome to Dr. Creepen's dungeon. Well, they say that water is the very essence of life, and without it, we would be nothing. But water's not always good, as we will see in tonight's deliciously frightful tales of terror. 3 stories coming up for you this evening. Now, as ever before we begin, a word of caution. Tonight's stories may contain strong language, as well as descriptions of violence and horrific imagery. If that sounds like your kind of thing, then let's begin. Standing at the end of the wooden dock, I watched the black, murky water. "We last saw her here," one of the 3 boys behind me nervously said. "You don't have to do this." I could taste the disgusting smell in the moist air. Crooked trees and branches protruded from the water. The sounds of buzzing insects, frogs chirping, and awkward bird songs hadn't stopped for a second since my arrival at the swamp. Beside the dirt road, which led to the small dock, the tall reeds and other plants made it impossible to tell where there was solid ground. Long branches allowed very little light to enter, creating shadows which added to the confusing surroundings. Little to no wind left an uncanny sensation. I handed my leather satchel to one of the children, before unbuttoning my white shirt and taking my shoes off, leaving me with just my pants. "I'll be gone for a while, but I'll return." I smiled, causing the boys to instinctively take a step back. "Now return to your homes. It's not safe here. Remember, they can't leave the water. Now, hurry." The kids waved and jogged away. Knowing that if I gave it too much thought I'd change my mind, I jumped into the swamp. Without the typical splash that comes after a dive, 3 solid seconds passed before my body was entirely submerged. The disgusting water flooded my lungs. It left a sticky feeling when I opened my eyes. Slowly and cautiously, I descended. 20 feet down, I finally saw the bottom. Just as the children told me, a human corpse became visible as my feet touched the swamp floor. Fish fled from the recently deceased, rotting body of a woman. Animals had eaten her eyes and lips. Pieces of skin were missing in places. Her arms were firmly wrapped around a small book she kept close to her chest. I extended my arm to retrieve it. 2 of my fingers tilted it to the side, revealing a silver cross around her neck. It felt as if my hand was inches away from fire. Before I could pull it back, the woman grabbed me by the forearm with her dead hands. "Unholy creature, you will be punished for disturbing my resting place." Her voice echoed through my head. "I'm here to help. Your brothers miss you." My pale hand began to turn black. "You deserve a proper burial." I quickly pulled my hand back as her grip loosened. Skin began to grow back. Her body healed. A young woman sat on the swamp bottom. Beautiful green eyes stared at me. "My brothers." A slight smile formed on her tired face. "I haven't." She paused. "You met humans, yet you haven't devoured them?" "I'd never hurt them, nor you. I'm here to help." My eyes moved to the book, which had fallen to the side. "That book. I'd be grateful if you gave it." She picked it up. "Father never told me what it was, only that I had come to the dock with it. It contains instructions to defeat an evil entity. I came to your home to retrieve it, learned about you along the way, and decided to help." "How honorable of you, undead. I don't believe you. I don't know why you want this book, but it isn't to do good." I don't trust you. How can I prove my intentions are pure? She gave me a sad look. You can't. Her arms wrapped around the book once more as her body took on its old, hideous visage. For a second I felt the water become warmer. 3 rotting bodies with exposed bone began to crawl out of the floor. I knew this swamp had taken dozens of other lives, and I was seeing 3 of them now. I wrapped my arm around the dead woman's waist. If we weren't underwater, I would have definitely caught fire. I forced my slowly darkening, undead arm to pull her and the cross closer. I felt one of the creatures grab me by the shoulder. Using my sharp nails, I swashed its fragile arm off and kicked it back. The silhouettes of 2 more approached. A total of 5 had surrounded me. I began to swim up as fast as I could, while multiple hands attempted to grab me. One of the creatures had somehow gotten closer and wrapped its arms around me, slowing me down with its extra weight. I sunk my razor-sharp teeth into its weak neck and ripped its head off with ease. I burst out of the water, still holding the woman. Just as I reached the shore, one of them grabbed her by the ankle. 2 more tackled me back under. The damage from the cross would have rendered my arm useless very soon. Despite ripping them off with my free hand, I kicked and struggled towards the shore. With a loud grunt, I hurled the woman onto the dock. 5 had jumped me and were slowly dragging me deeper. I felt one let go, then another. Something grabbed me by the hair and pulled. I turned up and saw the 3 boys from before. 2 held large sticks and slammed the creatures off of me, while the 3rd dragged me out. The moment I was entirely out of the water, the reanimated bodies retreated. On knees and palms, I calmly vomited the swamp water. I told you it's not safe here. Why didn't you leave? I turned around and saw them kneeling next to their sister's body. I gave them a moment of silence before continuing. You'll have to carry her to the village. I watched the shiny cross. One of the boys gently removed the book from her hands and handed it over, along with my belongings. You're hurt. I picked it up with my good hand. Don't worry about it. Exposed, burnt bone stuck out of my darkened limp arm. The pain was excruciating, but I knew it would go away eventually. I'll escort you back. Night will come soon. Let's go. As we walked back, one of the boys nervously glanced at me. Your wound. You have to, fix it, right? Their scent was intoxicating. The need to devour flesh was overwhelming. I realized I was staring at him as if he was food. I shook my head and smiled with my mouth closed. Relax. It's not a problem. My eyes moved to their dead sister. I could see them holding tears back. In another hour, we reached their village. 2 of them carried her into one of the wooden buildings. The 3rd one turned to me. We're grateful. Thank you for doing this. Why don't you... I put my finger up and shook my head in denial. Don't invite me in. The boy nodded. I have a question. I looked at his sad face. Yes? He entered his home. When you were saving me, did you really have to pull me by the hair? I smiled. He chuckled before shutting and locking the door. I looked at a few of the villagers who had a threatening glare around me. One held a hunting rifle. I hastily walked away from their home. It took me another hour of walking when I finally saw an actual road in the distance. The ground there was solid and had less plants, making it possible to move more freely. Rather than continuing to the road and out of the swamp, I took a sharp left turn. Several minutes of stepping in ankle-high mud, water, bushes and reeds passed, when I entered a small clearing. Wearing waterproof gear gloves, boots, and a bandana, my colleague, a tall, muscular man, sat on a wooden coffin in front of a small fire. The reflection of bright embers could be seen in his goggles. 2 off-road bikes were leaned against a tree to the tent behind him. One of the twigs I stepped on let out a loud snap. The man was now pointing his unholstered revolver at me. An iron cross hung on a chain from its barrel. "Relax, it's just me." I put my good hand up. "Doesn't mean you're not dangerous." He didn't hide the resentment in his deep voice. I kicked mud and dirt in the fire, extinguishing it immediately before walking up to him and rubbing the cross with my fingers. "Get rid of this. You're embarrassing yourself. Doesn't work if you don't truly believe." He spat to the side and lowered the revolver. "Do you have it?" I searched for the book in my satchel. "Here, take a look." My colleague pointed at 2 small, furry bodies to his sides. "Caught you some rodents. Bon appetit." He took the book afterwards and carefully flipped through the pages. The world around me faded into darkness. The only thing that existed at that moment were the 2 dead animals. I tore chunks of raw meat, bone and fur, swallowing them whole until nothing remained. I was far from sated, though. "This is good." My colleague compared the book with a bigger one he'd retrieved from a bag between his legs. I licked the last blood from my lips and fingers. "How so?" "From what I gathered, this is a journal which belonged to a cult member, one who's been dead for some time. Last entries 50 years ago." "A cult? Do we know them?" "As far as I know, no. The swamp is home to their god, some nature spirit, which is supposedly immortal and all-powerful. They came here searching for that power. This nature spirit, if it is truly this strong, it might be able to defeat our god. Well, there should be a powerful weapon in this swamp. If this isn't it, I don't know what is." My colleague handed me the book. "Page 7. There is a map. The cult constructed their own little hideout. It's marked." I quickly memorized the map and returned it to him. "What about you? Aren't you coming?" I scouted ahead. "Gets too dangerous in less than a mile, and the sun will set soon. I can't see in the dark." "All right. Keep my coffin safe." I left the camp. Swarms of mosquitoes ignored me as I pushed branches aside, swam through mud and climbed over dead trees. The 2-hour walk through the swamp ended with me seeing a light between the reeds in the distance. A poor imitation of a church, composed of dark, rotting wood, had been built in the middle of a larger clearing. Slightly tilted towards a pond, knee-deep water flooded its interior. From this angle, I could see the back of a man who was doing something. Seconds before ambushing him, I noticed a small camera tied to a tree. He turned around, and I could see he was setting up a tripod for his other camera. The man wore casual clothing with little to no protection against the swamp. A better prepared woman with waterproof gear ran out of the wooden building. "Bill, something's showing on the camera," she shouted and pointed at my direction. Both of them had a flashlight mounted on their shoulder. I dove into a pile of mud before they reached my location. The woman had a tranquilizer gun in her hand. There was movement here. Bill held a camera behind her. "What did you see? Did you film it?" She held an infrared camera with her other hand. "Damn it. I'm sure I saw it." "Does it really have horns?" "I didn't see the one we're looking for, but I saw something." "What? What did you see? The lizard man?" She stared at the footprints I'd left in the mud. "The invisible man. I saw branches and reeds forced apart as if an invisible force had passed through. Look, more footprints." She took a step back and looked at a random direction. "Hey, I know you're here," she yelled. "We don't want to hurt you." I crawled through the mud as I listened to the woman yell at nothingness. The tilted side of the building was flooded, while the other side was dry. Monitors were set up in the dry part of the interior. A woman calmly slept in one of the 3 sleeping bags. Survival supplies were scattered around the floor. A book titled Swamp Cryptids stuck out of an open backpack. These were one of the many groups searching for fame by catching something supernatural on camera. They were definitely not cultists. How they found the place, I didn't know. I heard someone approach and instantly rolled over behind the woman. I slightly lifted her along with her sleeping bag and hid underneath. "Hey, Linda, I think we found something. Come out and help." Bill tapped with his foot in anticipation. I attempted to imitate how I imagined she'd sound. "I'm sleeping. Go away," I answered with a womanly voice. He took a step forward. "Linda, are you feeling all right?" "I think I caught something. I'm feeling a bit sick. Don't come any closer." I prayed she wouldn't wake up. "You sure? We might be onto something." "I'm good. Hey, did you find anything in here by any chance?" I pushed my luck. He chuckled. "Please don't tell me you forgot about the statue." "Remind me?" His cheerful demeanor disappeared. "We stored it in the backpack. Oh, you really aren't doing too well, are you?" He extended his hand towards the woman's forehead. Before the man moved too close to see me, I revealed enough of my body so I could kick him in the jaw. Unconscious, he collapsed to the floor. Just as I began to crawl out, the woman woke up. I put her in a chokehold and waited for her to go back to sleep. Before doing serious damage, I released her and got to my feet. Oh, why does it always have to be so hard? I tore a chunk of wood from the ceiling and dropped it next to the unconscious man's head. After checking if the monitors with the stored footage were waterproof, I pushed them in the water. I quickly glanced at something gold in the backpack, lifted it out, and ran out of the building. The other woman was too busy searching for me in the distance, so I took the chance to take an alternate route and ran. Covered in filth, I reached my colleague's camp. Retrieved what we needed. I displayed the backpack. Did you know some kids were filming there? I read more of the book. Hey, whatever you do, you must not bring anything out of their hideouts. I nervously unzipped the backpack. And why shouldn't I do that? According to the journal, everything of value they brought in their hideout was a tribute to the forest spirit. If someone were to take anything, the spirit would see it as stealing. I pulled out a small golden statue of a woman in robes. Ah, too late. You stole that? Well, the cultists weren't there, so I consider it as coming across the statue. The cultists have most likely died off, but this curse might be real. I rubbed my chin. But that means the spirit will come to retrieve it. Well, we want to talk to... I felt a chill run down my spine. My colleague raised an eyebrow. You all right? For the first time in months, I felt cold. I think... My body was shivering uncontrollably. Hey, snap out of it. His words became distant as I dropped the statue and collapsed. Everything slowly went dark. Everyone has felt it. That feeling when you're having a terrifying nightmare and you wake up, skin soaked in cold sweat and an audible, rapid heartbeat. But it's all good. You calm down. Look around and see it's just your room, your bed, your haven. A place of safety, far away from the horrors lurking in the dream world. Hey, wake up, sleepyhead. I heard Jennifer's cheerful voice. My eyes opened. Jenny? I slowly got up and realized we were in our apartment. Who else would it be? She gave me a confused look. We leave for work in 30 minutes, remember? I looked at the mirror on the wall, and I saw I had a reflection. My blue eyes stared back at me. The red cheeks I used to hate were back, and my skin was normal. When I put my arm against my chest, I felt a heartbeat. I smiled widely, displaying all my white teeth. You all right? Jennifer chuckled. I wrapped both my arms around her. Oh, I'm never letting you go. Okay. She hugged me back and smiled. Did you have a nightmare? Oh, a horrible one. She squeezed out of my embrace. Oh, not that one about the evil cats again, is it? I wish. I began to dress. It was pretty crazy. I dreamt that a monster visited us last night. Forced you not to love me and transformed me into a monster as well. Then I went crazy. But these two guys came along and then... Jennifer interrupted me with her laughter. Sorry, go on. I smiled back and kept on talking. Oh, we had to kill a bunch of monsters to find the main monster. We'd already killed like 5, but the 6th one was really strong. We heard rumors of a powerful weapon in this swamp. Oh, God, does each guy fantasize about fighting monsters? To some extent, yeah. The love of my life kissed me and locked eyes with me. You were definitely dreaming. 1, you're too kind to fight anyone. And 2, no matter what, nobody can force me into not loving you. She paused and kissed me on the nose. I'll go check the mail. Humming a cheerful melody, she walked out of our room. I got a carton of orange juice, poured myself a glass, and walked out to the balcony. Leaning on the railing, I admired the city. Are you going to drink that? A figure appeared in my peripheral vision. I jumped back and turned to face it. A blonde woman in a white dress stared into my eyes. I let out a sigh. Oh, this isn't real, is it? She slowly shook her head. Are you conjuring this dream? I asked. Yes. This entire place is my creation. Oh, judging by where we are, you have access to my memories. God, why do this? Curiosity. I wanted to see what you do. You did the wrong thing. Who are you? I believe you called me a nature spirit. Oh, yeah. Sorry about the statue. Do not apologize, dead one. The statue is merely a way to communicate. I passed her the glass of orange juice. How so? She took a sip and smiled. You found the journal. That's how I found the statue. They wanted control over me, but they lacked the strength to do so. Those monsters imprisoned me within their church. I can see and speak through certain objects, which were left there. How can I free you? You want to free me? Why? For my power? In all honesty, yes. You can see what I've seen. The evil I'm fighting is too strong for me to take on alone. But in no way do I want to control you. She took another sip from the glass. I sense evil in you. Corruption. You're not pure. If I lend you my power, what stops you from taking the place of this evil you speak of? All I want is to bring her back. I looked at the interior of the apartment. Have my old life back. Tell me, how many have you devoured? I didn't answer. She slightly tilted her head. I know you keep count. You enjoy it. 79. And I didn't enjoy it. I hear you like dogs as well. How many? 25. Those are the ones you ate. How many did you murder? I felt my anger take over. I didn't choose this. He did it to me. Oh, but you always have a choice. You chose to be a monster. I walked up to an inch away from her face. I'm no monster. I yelled. You're pathetic. I don't want to be freed. Something deep inside took control of my body. If you won't willingly give me your power, I will take it. She shook her head in disappointment. There's no redemption for you. I'll devour your flesh, I shouted. Feeling like myself again, I opened my eyes. What happened? My body was back to its undead form. My colleague stood in front of me with his revolver drawn. Thick chains held me against a large tree. I felt 4 bullet holes in my chest and 2 in my head. He holstered his gun. You collapsed and let out incoherent shrieks. Then you got up and tried to eat me. Do it again, off goes your head. Don't blame me. The statue did it. It messed with my head. And I quickly explained what I'd seen. He picked the statue up and stared at it. Nothing's happening. He slammed it in the ground and kicked it. This thing's indestructible. I'm not taking no for an answer. I'm freeing that nature spirit. Don't care if she wants it or not. Now, untie me. Untie you? You know, I recall a little deal we made. What are you talking about? You promised you'd never lose control. If you did so, you said we can kill you. I'm all right now. It was only temporary. He slid a machete from the tent. Always start simple. What if there were others nearby? What if I wasn't here? That little rampage of yours would have ended quite differently. You also want him dead. You need me, I hissed. I haven't received an envelope in a while. My boss apparently thinks I've helped enough. If you planned on ditching me, why did you come and help me in the swamp? I wanted to see if I could get a bonus, but statues, journals, nature spirits, cults, too confusing. Maybe I'll get a bonus for your head. He put the machete blade an inch from my throat. I widened my eyes. Drop your weapon. He chuckled. You really are desperate. Deafening sounds of gunfire came from deep within the swamp. My colleague took a step back as a bullet penetrated his shoulder. Getting populated. How many people are there here? His eyes scanned the trees. A second shot hit him in the chest. He grunted and crouched down in a big bush. Hunting rifle? Who the heck did you lead back here? I fought to squeeze out of the chains. Definitely not the filming crew. Your stupid campfire must have attracted them. Accompanied by a third bang, a bullet penetrated the bike's tires. We listened for a fourth, but nothing happened. My colleague had covered himself in mud and grass. Whoever you are, take my advice and leave. I don't want to kill you, he shouted. Sparks flashed as one of the chain's rings next to my heart burst into pieces. With the chain broken, I began to free myself. Halfway out, I felt the latest bullet enter my chest, penetrate my heart, and exit into the tree. I coughed, but kept on going. The second I was free, I ducked down behind a pile of mud. My colleague had disappeared somewhere. Both him and the armed attackers were unseen. The statue laid in the center of the clearing. Arms out, I jumped at it. I grabbed it and rolled back in the filth under the reeds. The shots had come from two opposite directions. Either the marksman was really quick, or there were two of them. A small glass ball flew out of the trees and landed in the center where the statue had been. It cracked. Multiple miniature marbles leaked out and spread on the ground. My grip loosened. Oh, there are so many, I whispered. How many? Hundreds? Thousands? I have to know. I ran out of my hiding place and fell to my knees. One by one, I counted them. 1. I dropped to the side and picked a second one. 2. A net came flying from the bushes, pinning me to the ground. God, I hate that trick. Hardly overcoming my compulsion, I pushed the glass orb and marbles in the mud, where they slowly sank. Someone was running towards me from behind the trees and long grass. I chewed through the net, picked the statue up, and fled. Speeding through the swamp, while taking multiple bullets, I reached an area densely packed with plants. I submerged myself in the waist-high water and waited. I think I lost them. 10 minutes passed. The evil I was fighting wanted me dead. It had sent people who knew my weaknesses before, and these were definitely 2 of them. 2 hunters, my murderous ex-colleague, the filming crew, and a bunch of villagers who didn't like me all that much, all roamed the swamp tonight. I had to be extra careful. This sucks. I had a better time swimming in the sewers, I complained aloud as I scaled one of the taller trees. The cultist's hideout was visible from that vantage point. An armed figure stood behind 3 kneeling ones. The cultist supposedly trapped her, but she somehow speaks through the statue. I adjusted my satchel. If I destroy that building, maybe it will free her. I jumped from tree to tree, till I was close enough to see the armed figure. A tall, pale woman in black leather held a hunting rifle. She wore some kind of goggles, and her clothes were spotless. Eyes covered with cloth, the filming crew were lined up on their knees. A bright lantern on the ground illuminated the entire clearing. The trees closest to it had strung garlic. Marbles leaked from more glass balls scattered all around. If she was one of the hunters, the second one had to be close. I ripped the straightest branch I could find and began sharpening it with my nails. The sharp stake in my hand was 2 feet long. I cleared my throat and let out an ear-piercing shriek. She instantly aimed her rifle at my direction. Covered in swamp filth from all the crawling, I stood completely still on the top of the tree. A few seconds passed before she fired her rifle. A dead bird fell from the neighboring tree. Constantly scanning the area, the hunter slowly approached. My stomach rumbled as I felt my craving for flesh grow. At the same time, my bulging muscles tensed. Now, having exited the clearing, she saw me. The rifle was still not pointed at me when I launched the stake. Black liquid ran down her neck. Face first, she collapsed in the wet mud with a splash. Along with the clothes, her body fell apart into ashes. I waited as close as I could without being affected by the garlic and marbles. "It's safe," I yelled. The filming crew took the cloth off their eyes and stood up. Bill and Linda ran inside the wooden building. The woman, who held a tranquilizing gun from before, took a step forward. "Who's there?" she yelled back. "Your savior. She's gone." "Are you from the police?" Yeah. Can you get rid of the garlic?" She hadn't noticed the strings of garlic. "Okay." She tore them off and dropped them in the water. "Also, the marbles." "Marbles?" She looked at the ground. "Cover them." She kicked dirt and mud over them. "Ready?" I emerged from the darkness and entered the light. "Thanks for that." I smiled with my mouth closed. "I'm grateful. And don't take this the wrong way, but you look horrible." She walked up to me. "What's wrong with your eyes? You have no pupils." Cosmetic contact lenses." The swamp filth hid the bullet holes all over my body. "I'm from the military. I wear all of this as camouflage." The woman gave me a suspicious look. "What's going on here? Who was that person? Wait, did you kill her?" I handcuffed her to a nearby tree. She works for a, kidnapping organization. "Kidnapping organization?" She raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure you're from the military?" The other 2 exited the building. They'd packed their backpacks and equipment. Bill smiled and extended his hand to shake mine. "Thanks for the help, man. Who are you, by the way? You look familiar." He's from the military, the woman answered for me. I took a step back. You guys see a second-armed person running around here? Fear creeped onto Bill's face. There's a second one? No. Can you three find your way back? It's pretty dark. The woman crossed her arms. We can handle ourselves, Mr. Military Man. The three of them walked away. I entered the poorly constructed building and found one of the supporting pillars. Hope this works. I bored my fist and punched it. The entire building trembled. I punched it again, leaving a crack that time. I ripped a plank from the wall and stood at the exit. I threw the piece of wood at the pillar as hard as I could and jumped back. It burst into two. The entire building trembled and shortly collapsed, leaving a pile of lumber. Hey, nature spirit, your prison is no more. I drew the golden statue from my satchel and waited. A sharp pain ran through my brain. You freed me, her voice echoed in my mind. Oh, and I'm not expecting anything in return, I answered aloud. I didn't plan on giving you a reward. She sounded irritated. You don't seem too happy. You have your freedom. I denied your offer. Ever think I preferred being trapped? No. That doesn't make any sense. I've grown powerful through the ages. So powerful, I've become a threat to my swamp. I allowed the cultists to imprison me in order to protect my home. I scratched my chin. If you give me a part of your power, you might become less dangerous for your home. Win-win situation. The more I age, the more strength I gain. The more I age, the hungrier I get. I wanted to protect the living from myself. How the cultists trap me, I don't know. Protecting the mortals is no longer an option. Where are you going with this? There's a new settlement nearby. They might be enough for a few sunsets. Then I'll have to leave my swamp. Her voice faded away with those last words. I looked around. What does that mean? Everything was silent. I felt the ground shake. A large crack crawled out from under the timber and moved under my legs. A second one formed. Mud and grass lifted, sending me down on my back. I watched stone and dirt burst open. Armored, scaly plates began to emerge. Big as a car, the head of a giant alligator emerged. As it crawled out, more of its hideous body could be seen. The enormous creature ignored me and dragged itself into the water. As shallow as it was, it somehow managed to submerge its body inside. I watched the head disappear, then the torso, and finally the tail. I stood up on my feet and stared down the deep crater in front of me. Well, I pictured that going differently in my head. I arrived at my ex-colleague's camp, only to see him down on one knee next to his bike. I cautiously took a few steps towards him. Hey. Hey. He didn't turn around. Are you, doing well? He casually got up and faced me. Yeah. That's good. I made an awkward pause. I killed one of the hunters. That's good. I killed the other one. He looked at my coffin. Yeah, kept it safe for you. Thanks. Hey, look, man. I'm sorry I tried to chop your head off. I was in a bad mood. I smiled. Forget about it. They got you twice. You feeling all right? 4 times. They shot me again after you fled, but it's all good. So, does that mean you're staying? Hell no. Once I fix my bike, I'm out of here. I scratched my neck. I, kinda did something. Oh, if you killed someone... He raised his voice. No, I haven't. I actually rescued 3 people. My colleague calmed down. So, what did you do? It can't be that bad. I, released a giant telepathic starving alligator from his prison. Mind if you repeat that? and is probably going to attack the village. Oh, that sucks, but, well, good thing it's not my problem. He turned back to his bike. Don't see how it's your problem as well. I'm no monster. I made a mistake, which might cost dozens of lives. Gotta fix it. Good luck, bro. The man lifted his bike with one hand and handed me the journal with the other. Got places to be. Later. He calmly made his way through the mud and reeds. Thanks for nothing. I looked at my bike and coffin, the only things he'd left behind. Well, in that case, I'm doing this solo. I kneeled down and opened the wooden coffin. Crammed inside lay a rotting, dead dog, scattered clothes, and a machine gun. I changed my filthy clothes with clean ones, dragged the canine body outside, and closed the coffin. The Doberman had a vicious bite mark on its neck. I need your help. My palm hovered over its forehead. The dead body began to twitch. Its lips and cheeks shrunk back, revealing irregularly sharp yellow teeth, even for a dog. Pieces of sticky flesh peeled off the canine's balding body. Yellow crooked claws burst out of its paws. Grey eyeballs with no pupils locked on my identical ones. A long, pale tongue hanging from its mouth. It crawled up to its feet. The undead hound disappeared in the tall grass. I followed. We sped through the swamp, jumping over large roots, ducking under crooked trees, and taking shortcuts through neck-deep mud and water. A starving evil from deep within growled. I hadn't eaten anything in days. For a mere moment, whatever I was doing lost all meaning. All I could think about was flesh. I quickly snapped back to reality and kept on moving. Why? A distant whisper asked. Why do this? I want old life back. Loved again. I let out a hardly coherent hiss. Think outside the box. There's so much more to the world. I'm no monster, I growled. Of course you're not. You're beautiful. Stop doing this to yourself. Just a taste. You deserve it. Silence. Leave me be. I sunk my nails into my head and shouted. You want to be loved. Nobody loves you. Nobody ever will. Except for me. I'm always here for you. I love you. I kept on running. She what? She's gone. The old you is gone. Sometimes you must know when to stop. I burst out of two large bushes and could now see the village in the distance. I stood still. I won't give up. My body trembled. Give up? Why would you give up? Just get your priorities straight. Oh, I'm a good person. I'll stop the evil man. The voice was no longer a whisper. I could hear it as if a person spoke right next to me. Everything you've done since those fools persuaded you to start this little heroic quest hasn't felt right, has it? I slithered down to the ground under a tree. I'm doing things right. Stopping bad people, saving good people. Do good and good things will happen to you. All this time and you still don't get it. There are no good or bad people. There is no right or wrong. A loud crash sounded from the village. I looked away and hugged my knees. I did everything right. I bit into my arm. And you were unsuccessful. It was awkward, wrong, and confusing. I chewed. The disgusting taste of my undead flesh was repulsive. I heard screams from the village. The voice kept going on. Maybe this just isn't your story. Maybe you should just let it go. Black tears raced down my pale, rotting skin. I shook my head in denial. There must be a happy ending. There has to be love in the end of this dark tunnel. The light in the end of the tunnel will burn you. Stay in the dark where it's safe. That's where you're the strongest. 3 boys, one of which was holding a young child in his arms, and their mother, ran out of the burning village. They saw a hunched creature in the mud. One of the boys stopped his family and smiled. "Wait, that's my friend, the one I told you about. He helped us bring Sister back. He can help save our home." Slowly, the creature stood up. A man in muddy, torn rags faced the family. His grey, soulless eyes stared through them. The boy ran up to him and gave him a hug. "You can do what humans can't. A giant monster is attacking our home. Please help us." The man put his cold hand on the boy's shoulder. The skin on his fingers had peeled back entirely, revealing black flesh and bone. A long slit formed from ear to ear as he unhinged his jaw, revealing sharp teeth. The boy instantly ran back to his family. "Don't move," the pale monster whispered. The family stood still. Their eyes glanced at each other's frightened faces. "All of you look delicious." It licked his claws. "Starving." I stood in front of the humans and listened to the voice for further instructions. The order didn't come from inside my head. It came out of my mouth. Without a trace of humanity left in its face, the creature quietly hissed, "Devour each other." It turned its back and walked towards the swamp's exit. Shouts of agony, apologies and prayers sounded from the loving family as they tore into each other's flesh. People always come around to ask the same questions, wanting to understand something about the missing Shreveport girl. Some kind of fools always want a new angle, a new lead. But no matter how many times you tell people the story, that's all it remains to people. And it should be something more. But people are not listening for a warning, right? You want to know about her. They want to know about the river witch, eh? Alright, if you feel you need to know, then I guess you need to know. It's a funny thing how knowing such things and believing such things don't always go hand in hand. Now, I'll tell you all I know and all I believe, but no matter what you end up thinking or believing, know that it won't change a thing. She's real. Damn real. Well, where to start this thing? Yeah, the dip. It was at the restaurant. That's where I first saw her. That's where she met the devil. The restaurant was just so in name, you see. Nothing more than a shanty open bar near the riverside where good old boys stop in for some good home-cooked meals. The place was always crowded with the trucks and boats on either side. An old lady by the name of Nina worked it with her 2 sons, Ray and Thomas. They called it the Midnight Dip. It was over in southern Plaquemines Parish. Yeah, it was a happy place. Good food, good people, good times. Yeah, it had its share of fights or incidents, but nothing more than dumb drunks or angry wives looking for their men. Good times. Well, getting back to it. It happened in July, roughly 2 years ago. Madison, one of the new fellows working on the pipeline, he came by with his wife-to-be. Myra was her name. Nice girl. Come out of Shreveport, if I remember correctly. Well, she took sweet on Madison since he wasn't from around the local parts. He come from up north. Montana, you see. Anyhow, when the pipeline was brought down through these parts, she left Shreveport and moved to New Orleans to be closer. She'd come down on every other weekend to spend time with him. A real sweet thing they had. It was what my mother would have called a glass romance, though. Wasn't long to last under any kind of pressure. The smell of barbecue was strong in the air that evening. The stars were shining sweet and the gumbo was just about done. Cold beers sit in the cooler. Yeah, it was to be a good night. A normal night. Some of the boys were going to launch a few fireworks of their own on the far side of the riverbank. Going to be a hell of a show, I thought. Drunks and fireworks, you know. Well, it was about 9 or so, and the fresh catfish was just coming off the grill. We had a dartboard getting set up on the side of a tree. Went to throw the first round when I got a rude interruption. There was a woman's scream cutting over all the noise of the night. Scared the hell out of me, I'll tell you. It sounded something painful. And turns out, it was. You see, that sweet girl Myra gone to the truck to get something or other and found the Madison fella getting real intimate with a local bush named Jesse. Well, they broke her heart on the spot. Poor thing. She ran right down onto the road, into the dark. Madison ran down after her, spouting a heap of lies about how his carnal intentions with another woman wasn't what it seemed, all the while struggling to get his pants back on. Soon he was lost into the darkness of the road, too. Madison came back around an hour later and got his truck. Didn't say anything, just got the truck and left. Well, another hour or so passes and he comes on down again to get a beer. And Nina wouldn't serve him, because he took a nasty lip with her. Not that he needed it. I mean, the man came in smelling like race car fuel. He jumped in his truck and passed out before he even got the keys in. Much for the better, we thought. No need driving that drunk around here. Could end up in the river, dark waters. Nothing would find you there. Oh, nothing good, anyway. Around the tip of 1 a.m., Nina and her boys started getting the place cleaned up and ready for clothes. Lights were going off and plates were going up. I remember finishing off my bit of beer and fish as we got ready to leave. Left my tip, got my stuff for the boat ride home with my buddy Red. As I walked outside, I saw something staggering just out of the corner of my eye down the road. It was a dirty, sloppy mess of rags. The damn thing looked like it had just walked right up out of the river. Mud and moss all over. As it got a bit closer, I saw it was that Myra girl. Oh, what a nasty mess she was. I tell you, it was like she'd walked through mud, sewage, and a jungle all at once. Well, I ran over to her as best as a liquored-up old man could. I called out to Nina and Red. The two boys, Ray and Thomas, came first. They saw how she was and picked her up and brought her inside into the cabin. Nina brought out some warm towels and a clean blanket. Red and I just sat at the bar and watched, doing our best to stay out of the way. Yeah, I was damn near frozen from what they said. Took about a good 20 minutes or so, but they got her warmed up and covered. She wasn't saying a word at first, but Nina got her talking a little bit, and then a lot. A lot of it was cursing, mind you, mainly about that Madison fella. When she calmed down again, she told Nina something horrid. Oh, she started crying again, softer this time. She started telling Nina about how she was walking down the road. Madison came up on behind her, started to gag her and beat her. It's hard to make out through the tears, but well, I think she said that Jessie girl was with him. Yeah, she said that after the beating, Madison dragged her by the hair to someplace cold and wet. Someplace evil. She actually said the word evil. Well, back then I didn't know how you could tell that someplace was evil, though we all learned fast soon enough. She said she couldn't remember more than that. After that, she just broke down again, inside this time. You could just know it by looking at her. Oh, that poor thing just sat there looking like a half-drowned cat. I remember Nina was cussing up a bit under her breath now. She went on about how she never liked that Madison man, and that she should have buckshot his rear the moment he walked up to the dip. Oh, I hate to be the guy who gets in another man's life, but if the girl was telling the truth, then Madison was a real deal scumbag who broke a pretty girl. Anyway, Red came back in and told me he'd call Sheriff Hornings. I got up to tell Nina that Red and I were heading out, as it was late and all, but as I got off the bar stool, I saw Myra get up too. Well, it caught me off guard as it was so quick. I tell you, that girl's legs didn't push her up. It was like she was yanked up off of the floor. She started walking out right away, walking with a purpose. I called out to her and she paid no attention. She just kept walking. One of Nina's boys, Ray, taking sweet on the girl and tried to see what was going on. She ignored him too. When he tried to hold her hand, he pulled it back quick like something burned or shocked him. He fell to the ground with a cry of pain as he cradled his hand. She opened the back door and sat outside in the tall grass by the riverbank. She just sat there, didn't move or say anything. Man, it was just creepy. I remember we took a look at Ray's hand, and it was red hot. His mama was putting an ice pack on it while his brother helped. Red was looking over and said he saw bite marks on the hand. Nina put Ray's hand to the light and noticed that he sure did have 2 small bite marks on him. Nina checked it out and sure enough, there was something on him. It kind of looked like a weird snake bite. Just the fangs were too far apart and there seemed to be 2 sets of them. Ray started to run hot water all over and said he felt sick. He said that his head was killing him. Thomas had asked me to get the first aid kit from the back of the bar. Well, I'd been there enough years to need it once or twice myself, so I knew my way around. As I poked on back behind the bar, I saw Myra, still sitting in the tall grass. She had her head tilted up, talking to someone. Couldn't see who, though. Well, I tossed the kid over to Red and stepped out back again. And that's when I saw him. He was tall, a good 8 foot on him at least. He stood there in the tall grass talking to Myra. I did my best to put him together in my eyes. It was almost like my mind couldn't keep him in direct sight. It was like looking at a moving ink spot. It was all dark and wispy-like. I tell you, I know it's hard to believe, considering the drinking, but I tell you, I knew that what I was looking at wasn't something men were supposed to see. Not rightly, anyways. It was a deep feeling. Something inside was telling me to get away, to close my eyes. I don't know if it was instincts or something else, but I could feel the danger, and maybe even the evil. As I watched Myra talking to the thing, it raised its arm, I think, and wrapped her whole head in that same inky cloud, lifted her straight up. I thought it was choking her to death. I called out to her, at least I tried. You see, before I even opened my mouth, I was dropped to the mud with a brutal thought. I couldn't move a muscle, couldn't even scream. I could hear the commotion inside the dip. Oh, they were helping young Ray with his arm. Nina was yelling, cursing, crying all the same time. Thomas was doing his best to help his brother and mother deal. From what I gathered, Ray had started going pale and cold. Red was yelling at me. He was asking me to come back inside. I wanted to say something, but it was useless. I was pinned down. Well, I don't rightly know what happened, but I was sure that the devil thing outside had somehow done it to me. Managed to move my head a bit, and then just a bit more. Little by little, I was able to move again. As I finally managed to stand, I looked for the girl and that thing. I was equal parts relieved and terrified to not see either of them. I stumbled my way back into the restaurant and stared at Red for a solid minute or so while he asked me what was wrong. I couldn't say a word. I didn't know how to begin. My own internal debates as to what to say were cut short by an ugly, grinding sound booming outside. Red went out back first, and he could hear them letting loose all sorts of curses. A horrible, deep wailing started to come from outside now. Thomas and Nina stayed focused on Ray, but the screaming was getting to them. This was a man scream, a terrified scream. Well, I thought it was Red at first, but he came back in with a face as pale as poor Ray's. He gave me one deep look, and I knew that he'd seen the devil outside as I had. Well, don't know what made me do it. Maybe part stupid or just curious. I took a few steps toward the door. Red looked at me with a look that was pleading me not to go outside. He may even have been saying it too. I couldn't tell. I opened the door and saw a damn horrible sight. You see, in all the commotion, we'd forgotten about that bastard Madison. He was still outside, passed out in the truck. When I saw him, though, he was wide up, sober and terrified. Myra had him. Now you can all judge and spit in my story, but I tell you, that's what I saw. It just still seemed so out of reach. Yet it was real. I know it. Myra was there with a nasty look in her eyes. It was a mix of a hungry gator and a scared deer. Well, that's the best I can describe it. Totally inhuman, really. She was still wearing the heavy blanket that Nina had draped over her. With one arm on the grill of the truck and feet digging into the mud, she was pulling Madison towards the river. Madison was trying his damnedest to break the windows or open the doors. Nothing worked. That same black garbage that I saw earlier, it was swimming all over the truck. He screamed, he cussed, he cried like a little kid. I could do nothing but watch. I knew that Madison was going to have something bad happen to him, no matter what I did. Well, I tell you, I looked at Myra, and she seemed to be dripping with that blackness all over. It was that devil stuff. It was coming out of her ears, her eyes, her mouth, and her nose. It was covering the truck with more and more. Oh, that little Myra, she pulled the whole truck from the lot to the river without breaking stride. Myra, whatever it was inside her. The devil, I say. It had to be. And when I stared at her too long, she started to break up in my eyes. Just the devil thing before me. She wasn't part of the world anymore. No, she was lost. I just knew that somehow. She got to the edge of the river. She let go of the truck. His front wheels were already in the water. She stepped back to the side and screamed out some crazy noise. Oh, it hurt all over just to hear it. I can't help but imagine it's what being inside a microwave must feel like. My head, and arms, legs, all of it, felt like they were about to pop and burn. It was over quickly, though. Then she fell to the floor and started puking up gallons of that evil black stuff. I heard Madison calling out, crying for help. He'd finally broken a piece of the windshield and got his foot stuck. God, it was like watching a rabid dog in a kennel. Then I heard the wailing noise again. The blackness swirling around the truck stopped and seemed to pour to the ground like water. It was dark out, and the stuff itself was darker than anything, but I tell you, I watched it drain all to the river. Myra was still just sitting there bent over by the riverbank. More and more of that stuff just kept coming out of her. God, it was coming out like a dam had broken inside of her. And the wailing noise came back for a moment, and then faded. You could hear Madison calling out to Myra to help him. He was going on about how much he loved her, oh, and how she needed him. how he could help her and comfort her. And if she heard him, she didn't show any reaction at all. There was a big splash in the river. Madison noticed it too. He stopped his noise and looked straight ahead. It felt like hours had gone by while we stared at that river. And then it came out. The thing that finally killed Madison. It was a hand. Massive, though. It seemed to be made out of twigs, logs, mud, and rock. It was twice the size of the truck. Oh, I tell you, it was like the skeleton of the river. Damn crazy it was. It clawed its way to the shore, and I could make out a long, nasty arm of sorts, trailing behind it. Well, Madison started to scream again, but not for long. The monstrosity of a hand reached the truck and grabbed it whole. I could see more of that black ink dripping from it. It happened so quickly. I couldn't even really believe what I was watching. It crushed the truck like a can. No way I could see Madison now. But I knew the man was dead. If he wasn't, then I hoped he'd die soon, out of mercy. And the hand sank back into the river water as quickly as it had come. Myra was still there, bent over the riverbank. And I'm not ashamed to say that I went nowhere near her. I'd seen enough to know that whatever she was dealing with wasn't for God-fearing men to interfere with. I kept watching her, though. She didn't move one bit. I kept watching her, though. She didn't move one bit. She had a stillness that was just so unnatural. Nothing about her moved, not even her hair. And just about that point, a strong wind was picking up. Now let me tell you, this was a whole other thing, this wind. Red was outside with me now. Didn't know how long he'd been at my side. I looked at him and saw he could tell this wind was something really bad, though. Really bad. A strange kind of bad. I could feel it. Not like a gust of cold wind across your face, but inside me. Oh, it was ugly, nasty stuff. It chilled me from the inside out. When it hit the river's edge, I saw it take form, or something like a form. I don't know exactly what it was I saw, but I felt like it watched me. These strange eyes kind of peering out from the dark. Yeah, I know it's hard to imagine, so it's even harder to talk about, but it was there, watching. Almost like a snake's eyes, I thought. It was just so hard to look at. It pulled more and more of that blackness to the river edge and started to suck it down into the water. Soon there was none of that stuff left on the muddy banks. As whatever it was started to put itself to the waters, I saw Myra start to crack and crumble, like dust in the wind. I'm telling you, it was surreal. It was nothing but a few seconds, and then she was gone. Nothing left of her. And then it was quiet again. No noise at all. Red damn near killed me when he put his hand on my back. My heart felt like it was stopping right there. I caught Thomas peeking through the back room windows, too. They both had the look that I must have been wearing. That look that says, we're not alone and we are afraid. I forced my legs to take me inside. Poor Nina. She sat there with her boy, Ray. I could tell by his face that he was gone. Glassy eyes and all. She cried about him for a good old while. Well, as any mother would. When the sheriff showed up, we had nothing to tell him. We all just sat there staring at each other. Well, the sheriff, he knew something was up, but left it as a lover's quarrel and left. He said that if Myra or Madison showed up, and to bring them by the station. We all nodded, knowing well that we would never see that girl's face again. Or rather, we hoped we never would. He did his best to talk to Nina, but with her son dead on the floor, she had nothing to say. We told him he got a snake bite, well, best we could tell. Harrison looked at us, and he could tell another story was sitting there, but he let it be. Red and I decided to walk home that night instead of taking the river. I myself have never been back on the water since. Can't even eat fish now, you know. Nina cried herself to death about a month after. Oh, poor lady just couldn't cope with any of it. Thomas still runs the dip, but nobody much goes there now. The whole area has kind of taken a negative dive. Since that night, other people have said that they've seen some really crazy things down on the river. I used to brush them off, but now I take notes. I know better than to ignore all the stories. And yet I also know well enough to leave them alone, too. As for that Jessie girl, no one has seen or heard from her since. She used to have a little place on the edge of the river. Well, it was not a surprise that no one can find the trailer anymore. Just a dirt lot where it used to be. Well, some say she moved, but being that close to the water, I just don't know. I don't really have much else to tell you about that night. I recommend that you keep your mind open for what can be out there. Oh, and you try and get more out of my story than just a laugh at an old drunk. Farewell, friend. Remember, stay clear of the river. There are worse things than gators in those waters. Oh, one more thing. Pay the tab for me if you would.
Michael Duchamp drove down the rain-slick street. His brown eyes were narrowed as he thought about the dream he'd had. All he remembered was his brother's cut-off panic scream. He could have turned over and gone back to sleep, but it's been more than 4 years since he'd spoken with Robert. And even now, Mike could feel the anger build while his car flew down the road. Mike eased up on the gas. No need to catch the attention of some traffic cops. He was a cop too, homicide, but maybe they wouldn't cut him any slack. It'd be better to stay within the speed limit. All he needed was to end up in a cell while his brother needed him. There were no clues he could point to, but it felt like time was running out. The painful flash of regret made Mike grind his teeth. Maybe he shouldn't have got hot-headed and hung up. Ignoring his brother's later calls didn't help either. Why? With a shake of his head, he pushed those thoughts away like a too full screaming plate of suck. He had to concentrate on getting to Robert. Mike just knew with certainty that his brother was in trouble and needed help. Stupid argument be damned. Again, Mike looked up at the electrical storm's swirling green clouds. Chills raced down his back. There was just something wrong here, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Maybe a weather guy, weather person, would be able to explain what's going on, or maybe they wouldn't know squat. If Mike had some spare bucks, he would definitely put it on the squat option. He clenched his jaw. With great difficulty, he managed to relax. That stupid storm was the reason he was driving and not flying. Using a plane would get him there faster, but when he tried to use Bookham, his favorite hotel booking app, it showed that all flights had been cancelled, so he had to drive. Even though the scenery was almost a dark green blur, he remembered enough landmarks, so being lost wasn't an option. Didn't need a GPS. Mike had heard too many horror stories about them. The route was so familiar, even though he hadn't been through here for decades. His eyes were filled with tears while his heart was filled with fury. It was the last night. No, he wasn't going to think about that. He had to focus on getting to New Orleans and finding his brother. That was the only thing that mattered. A clearing came up on him. Several smoking cars were at the edge of the storm, while a cute, short black woman leaned on a car with scorch marks on the rear. Mike gave her a quick threat assessment. He was out in the middle of nowhere and alone. It's best to be careful. She had an oval face with eyes with a slight slant to them. Her hair was short. Mike noted that her jeans had scorch marks on them. It seemed to go with the burn marks on the rear of her car. The other cars looked like they got hit by lightning in the front, and the drivers, well, they were burnt, smoking lumps. Mike looked away and thought about the black woman. There was something off about her. She didn't seem like a civilian. Would a normal person stay in the area with two toasted corpses? Even though he liked what he was looking at, he decided to be extra careful. Mike slowly got out of the car. The woman walked up. Mike liked that she didn't show up with a wide grin and start talking crap. But then again, that could be a sign of someone who's more of a threat. He pointed towards her toasted car. Looks like you're going to have problems with that rental. She smiled. It was a small one, but there was some warmth behind it. Yeah, I need your help. I need a ride into New Orleans. I can pay. Her clipped New York accent kind of annoyed him. Most of the cops he had to deal with from that city acted like dicks, but there were a few that were just regular cops. Again, Mike just had this feeling that this woman was special. Special what, he didn't know. No need to pay me. Again, he pointed at her car. What happened? The woman looked at him. Well, I drove in a bit and it didn't feel right. I don't like driving in the rain, but this felt different, like it was dangerous. So I turned around and got zapped in the rear. While the woman told her tale, Mike kept a close watch on her face for tells. Something that would show him she was lying about something. So far, he didn't see anything. His gut kept whispering that she was leaving some details out. He'd gone up against some pretty smooth grifters. It was pretty hard to tell if they were lying. There was also the chance that whatever the woman left out was a pretty useless detail anyway, or she thought it was useless. Then again, he still felt there was something important that she was leaving out. Mike looked up at the storm. It still bugged him, and he remembered that his brother needed help. Should he take the woman with him? He looked up at the swirling green and black clouds again. It almost felt like something he didn't want to see was trying to poke its way out, like something moving under the covers. But, well, you live alone. Mike shook his head. He knew those thoughts were scary and distracting. Stick to the mission, as the army guys would say on TV. Are you okay? The woman asked. Mike flipped a coin in his head to trust the woman. It fell down. Whatever. He was going to get some, if possible. Probably after his brother was taken care of. He stuck out his hand. Name's Mike Duchamp. The woman grabbed his hand in a quick, firm shake. Shalea Green. Friends call me Shelley. Well, enemies call me... I'm not going to be a potty mouth. Shelley smiled. It was a 1,000-watt one. All too soon, the lights faded. Mike smiled. He liked when people shook with a firm grip and didn't shake like dead fish or squeeze too hard. That was a sign of someone who's a dick. With a flourish, he pointed at his car. Your carriage awaits. Shelley giggled and headed over to the passenger side of the car. He liked the sound. It felt good. Like finding $1 in a pocket when you want a candy bar and you think you have no change. And then he had to ruin that little bit of nice. Mike took another look up and regretted it. There was something about the storm that just rubbed him the wrong way, but he couldn't stop gawking. And in a few seconds, he was going into it. He hoped that he would do better than the other folks who got zapped. A moment later, he crossed himself and got into the car. It had been a while since he'd been in a church, but somehow he felt that he needed more help. Mike turned the car into the center because of the wrecks in his way. As expected, heavy rain hit his windshield. It sounded like someone was throwing pebbles at him. And then it stopped. That was unexpected. He wondered what sort of storm just has rain at the edges. There were more things to wonder about. The trees looked in fine shape, but there were slick, shiny spots in the road where lightning had struck. He wondered why lightning would avoid the trees and hit the ground and cars. Speaking of cars, several of them had burning passengers and drivers in them. He avoided looking at them. It just didn't feel right. Finally, they drove past the Zap cars on both sides. Then Mike moved to the lane going to New Orleans. There was a bright flash to the right of the car, and then gravel struck the car. Mike sped up. More lightning strikes started hitting around the car. Wait, why isn't lightning hitting the trees? No reply. For a moment, Mike was afraid to look at his passenger. Oh, maybe she'd be a burning lump of blackened meat. A quick sniff got him nothing. No, he'd have to look. Did he want to? Not really, but the desire to know was strong. He glanced over to his right. Shelley was just sat in her seat with her eyes closed. She wasn't burning flesh. Well, that was a relief. No weird Twilight Zone stuff here. Well, except for the storm. Mike turned his attention to the road. The lightning strikes were hitting around the car more frequently, and he was losing sight of the road because of the brightness of the flashes. It seemed that any moment the lightning would either hit the car or he would smash into something. Rain pelted the car for a moment, and then they were out. Mike took his foot off the gas and coasted to a stop. All right, I got you through the storm or whatever that was. I'll let you out here and you can find a bus or something, Mike said. Shelley sat up and opened her eyes. For a moment she looked around. Really? You're going to let me out here? It's a dead zone. Heck, I even used Google Maps and I could see it was a dead zone. Mike frowned. He started to say something, but then he looked around too. The sun was painting the area in an orange glow. It looked so cozy, the sun setting light on abandoned buildings stretching for miles. Lots of houses with no windows or doors, and it was quiet, too quiet. No birds or other people or anything. Something about that started to bug him. Yeah, he thought, this wasn't a good place for a woman to be roaming around in. Heck, didn't look like a place for a man either. A frown parked itself on Shelley's pretty face. Hey, sorry about that. Didn't know this area was abandoned. How about I get you to New Orleans, the city, and I find you a hotel there? Shelley took one more look around. Yeah, that's better. Look, I have to check on my brother first. Hope you're okay with that, Mike said, and then started the car. No problem, Shelley said. They drove through the area. At first it seemed to be totally abandoned, but Mike kept getting the feeling that there was something, or some things, living there. His foot began to press on the gas more. He couldn't see anything other than houses with no windows or doors, but every once in a while there'd be this flicker of movement like something moving away from a window or doorway. He didn't really want to know or see what was hiding from him, but he had a feeling that eventually the hidden would reveal themselves. Shelley's voice filled the car low and with warning in it. Hey, be careful with your speed. If you go too slow, you'll look like a tourist gawking at everything. Nobody here likes the extra attention. On the other hand, if you go too fast, then something's going to think that you know what you shouldn't. That's not good for us. Drive a little bit faster than the speed limit, okay? Do it now. A feeling crept up on Mike. The hairs on the back of his head were rising to attention. Someone or something was watching him. Maybe it had a sniper rifle on him, and in a few minutes his brains would be splattered on the windshield. He just had to survive so he could get to Robert. Another idea crawled up on him. How did Shelley know what was going on? Then again, maybe this wasn't the right time to ask, since he tried to dump her in this area filled with things he didn't want to see. The buildings turned into a blur. Slow down, Shelley yelled. Mike gasped. How could he slow down? He felt like a bullet was coming for him. Gotta go fast. Somehow he focused and slowly pulled his foot off the gas. Felt like he was pulling pieces of his shoe off a sticky metal plate. Slowly, the building stopped looking like a blur. Just like that, the feeling of imminent death faded. Mike kept his eyes face forward and only looked to the sides when he was at an intersection. A moment later, he took a shuddering breath. What was that? I don't know, and I don't want to know. Let's get your brother before nightfall, Shelley said while her pretty face was filled with worry. He glanced to his left and right. The neighborhood wasn't abandoned. There were lights in some of the windows and cars parked in driveways. But he didn't feel safe. There was something off about this area too. Where was everybody? What if there were no people? Maybe the whole neighborhood was abandoned. Mike pushed those thoughts away and then nodded. In silence, they rode to his brother's home. While he pulled up to his brother's house, Mike went through his memories. Not the real painful ones, no. That was too much for now. Robert had inherited the house from his foster parents. He lucked out. Also, the mortgage was paid up. It really was his house now. Well, the fight they'd had wasn't about that, though. Mike looked up at the house. It needed a slight painting, and the yard needed a mow, but it still looked like someone was taking care of things. He hoped that it wasn't too late. Shelley, stay in the car. I'll come get you. Sure, just don't take too long. I don't like the feel of this area, Shelley said, and then looked around again. Mike left the car and pushed away thoughts about what they'd gone through. It was just too strange. All of the riding around had led to this. He hoped that Robert was still alive. Mike rang the doorbell on the black painted wooden door. Robert opened the door. His eyes widened. Oh, shit. Mike! And he grabbed Mike and held him close while blubbering away. Hey, man, God, I'm so sorry about what I'd said about Dad. Should have held my tongue. Mike hugged his brother back. Nah, man, look, it's in the past. Don't worry. Robert released his brother and then wiped his brown eyes. God, how did you know that I needed you? Things got so strange, so bad, so quick. I couldn't even use the phone to call. Mike wiped his eyes too. I just had this feeling you needed help, so here I am. Robert smiled and then looked at the sky. Fear crept into his face and a frown appeared. Then he looked at the car. Things aren't so good around here at night. You better get your friend, or whoever she is, inside. Mike didn't like seeing fear in his brother's face. It just didn't feel right. Yeah, sure. He walked back to the car. Robert yelled. Hurry up. I'm closing and locking the door when the sun goes down. Shelley left the car when Mike approached. Mike stopped for a moment. Do you know what's going on? Shelley shook her head. No, I'd rather find out from inside a house with a strong wooden door than outside. They made it, just as the last rays of the dying sun faded out. Robert made sure all of the locks were secure. Mike saw all of the locks, and a chill went down his back. He wondered what was really going on. Well, the last time I saw so many locks was when I visited a friend in NYC, and he lived in a good neighborhood. Well, that joke should have gotten some laughs. Silence. Shelley looked at Robert, and Robert looked back. It reminded Mike of the time he went on a raid with some other cops into a crack house. Raiding them was the worst. There was a range of folks from hostile to just high. There was also an unknown element to it. Some drug-crazed person could jump out of nowhere and jab someone with needles contaminated with God knows what. So yeah, when the cops rode to the crack house, everybody wondered if they'd ride back home healthy. Now he recognized that sharing of fear. Robbie, you gotta tell Shelley and me what's going on, Mike said. Robert nodded. Yeah, but first we gotta fix dinner. Bad news doesn't feel so awful on a full stomach. Oh, I ran out of beer. Just got some Dr. Peppers. Geez, Robbie. Now I know you're really in danger. No beer. I guess it could be worse. You could have that nasty Mr. Pip stuff, Mike said. Robbie smiled. It was weak and fleeting. Hey, don't you go disrespecting the Honorable Pibbs. I make a cake using that stuff, and it won a culinary prize. People love it at my restaurant. Mike sighed dramatically. Some folks. No accounting for taste. A moment passed, and the levity drained out of the room like blood oozing from a fatal wound. Shelley, do you know how to cook? Robert asked. Well, so far I've managed not to burn water. Does that count? Shelley said. Good enough, Robert said. They left the foyer and went to the kitchen. The first thing that Robert did was to close all of the window shades. Mike watched him and got another chill. It was like watching someone from an old 50s horror movie trying to make the house safe from what? A few moments later, he managed to tear his eyes off at the spectacle of his brother pulling the window shade shut. Too bad. Mike remembered mornings when just a faint ray of light would bounce around the lemon-yellow kitchen and turn it into a little slice of heaven. That was back when Big Rob LePain still had his job and was the best foster father ever. No, father. Then the bad times came and the Axaco textile plant shut down. Big Rob was a chef at a restaurant across the street, not a worker. But the shutdown hurt him too. Nobody would come in, and eventually Big Rob's closed down. Things went south, as they say, as Robert Sr. hit the bottle and anyone else too slow to get out of the way. Mike's eyes burned. He grabbed a napkin to dry them. For a sad moment, he wondered if those mornings actually existed, or if it was just all pain and loss. Mike, you sure did have some good times in this kitchen, Robert said while his brown eyes went back to the past. Mike wanted to disagree, but deep down he knew Robert was right. It wasn't all dark. Robert sniffled. Shelley rolled her eyes. Sorry to break in and be rude, but what are we going to eat? Robert looked in the white fridge. Mike was surprised that it was almost empty. Made his fridge with its meager amount of food in it look overstocked. Then Robert checked the freezer section. It looked like there was plenty of room to rent there too. Empty and cold. Robbie, you're a chef. Why is your fridge emptier than mine? Mike asked. Robert turned around and a look of fear crossed his face. A chill went down Mike's back again. He didn't like what he saw and dreaded what was coming next. You don't have a store nearby to buy stuff from? Shelley asked. Her eyes flicked from Robbie to Mike. More chills hit Mike's back. Hey, Mike, remember that Piggly Wiggly we used to go to? Yeah. Well, it was open until recently. I guess I should tell you everything, Robert said and looked down. He then looked up. I was driving back to the store a few weeks ago, and I saw something. What? The area near the store was not that great even when times were good. After that, it was just abandoned buildings for miles and miles. Anyway, I saw something. Bright white eyes in a face that was darker than midnight. When I glanced at the road and looked back, it was gone, Robbie said, sweat breaking out on his forehead. What? You saw a black person and that scared you? Mike frowned. Robert sighed. No, yeah, it was a black person, but it was something that was car tire black or even darker. Like what you see in a lawyer's heart or worse. Oh, not brown. No black person I know has totally white eyes either. When I came back, I didn't see it at the same place, but driving home I caught a quick glimpse of it again somewhere else. Changed my route. Burned up too much gas driving out of the way, but I would always either see or catch quick glimpses. Well, after a while, I couldn't do the drive anymore. Mike looked at the shuttered windows and looked back at Robert. Is that why you shuttered the windows? So you wouldn't see whatever's looking in? Robert nodded, more sweat dripping down his brow. He brought out a grey hanky and wiped his brow. I'm so scared. I'll see those eyes at the foot of my bed and that... Shelley frowned. We're here. We won't let that happen, Robert. For a moment, Mike sensed that there was something different again. Still couldn't put his finger on it. He nodded. Yeah, Robbie, we're here. Robert sniffled and blew his nose. Thank you, both of you. Shelley, you can call me Robbie. Guys, I'm going to go down to the basement and check the freezer. Might have something down there. In the morning, we'll be gone, if we survive. You want me to come with? Mike asked. For 2 brief moments, Robert stood tall like a king. This is my house now. I'll be fine. Then he shrunk back down to a frightened man while he shuffled off to the basement. Shelley looked at Mike. Mike looked back. What's going on around here? She asked. He shrugged. Don't know. And I don't want to know. Yeah, sometimes you don't get a choice. You'll get to know even though you wish you didn't, Shelley said, and then walked up to the shuttered windows. You know, my mama was afraid of vampires. Loved movies about them, but the nightmares not so much. She told me about one dream in which she was closing all of the windows, but at the last one, the vampire grabbed her and she woke up. Is your mama all right? Mike asked. Yeah, she gave up vampire movies after that. For some reason, she still watches horror movies. But that one creature just gave her the worst nightmare, Shelley said as she pulled out a brown wooden chair from under the table and sat on it. I feel like that when I watch CNN. God, that Anderson Cooper is just so pale, Mike joked. My mother also gave that station up. Too much real horror there, Shelley said as she glanced around the kitchen. Well, what do you think my brother saw? Is it possible? Mike asked. Shelley shrugged. There are so many strange things out there. Did you see anything when we were in those abandoned neighborhoods? I was too busy driving. Didn't see anything but blacktop, he said. It wasn't exactly the truth. The fleeting glimpses were enough to convince him that a full view was something he didn't want to have. Robert broke in. What didn't you see? Mike saw that Robbie had a small chicken in his hand. Well, a pigeon could bully it. Yeah, what's that? Cornish game hen. Good eating for one, but too little for 3 unless I put it in the soup. I might need someone to go outside and get some rocks. Silence filled the kitchen as Shelley and Mike shook their heads. Well, there goes my chance to be a comedian. What didn't you see, Mike? Wait, what's the deal with rocks? Mike asked. Just a joke. Haven't you heard the story, Stone Soup? Mike shook his head. And let me see what cans are left around. Again, Mike, what didn't you see? Robbie said, and then placed the tiny hen in the sink. You know, the road that leads into town? Well, we drove through that area. Looks like it was totally abandoned, Mike said. He was hoping that the subject could be dealt with quickly. Too many bad thoughts and feelings for him to deal with. Robert rummaged through 2 cabinets, but didn't find any food. Yeah, you don't have to say that anymore. He looked through more. Mike thought that Shelley would say something, but she kept quiet. Ooh, come here, you beautiful dented can of asparagus soup, Robert crooned. We got some type of supper now. More rummaging produced some string beans and some really small potatoes. Briefly, Mike wondered how much food Robert had squirreled away, and how long it would take him to run out after he'd stopped shopping. When that thought faded away as Robert started cooking. The meal was great. Well, Mike hadn't had a home-cooked meal in a while that didn't need soy sauce. The company was even better. But eventually, the warmth of the conversations faded. It seemed like the darkness pressed against the windows. Any second, he expected them to creak from the weight. Everyone retreated into their own heads as they wondered what was going to happen next. Shelley stood up and stretched. That was a fine meal, even if we just shared a sparrow. Robert grinned for a split second before worry clamped down again on his face. Mike hated seeing his brother like this. I guess we need to get ready for bed. More fear crossed Robert's face. Shelley glanced at her watch. Too early. It's only 9. Robbie, do you have Netflix? Robert looked away and then back at Shelley. There's something wrong with the TV. I read now. Again, Shelley glanced at Mike. Mike looked back. "Robbie, what's wrong with your TV?" Robert looked away and then back at Mike. It's better if I show you." "Do you have to? Couldn't you just tell us?" Shelley said. Robert shook his head and got up. He turned, and Shelley and Mike got up and followed him out of the kitchen. Mike wondered why he didn't ask for a tour of the house. Yeah, he'd grown up in it, but he was sure Robert had done some changing, or, well, maybe not. It was just a few steps to the living room. A lumpy beige couch faced a dusty table where a TV should be. Mike thought about asking, but he didn't really want to know. Well, he wasn't sure. Robert led them to a guest bedroom and they all filed in. There in the small room, sitting on a table facing the bed, was the dusty, missing TV with the remote on top. Mike grabbed the remote. Let's see what's on ESPN or CNN. He missed the look of fear that crossed Robert's face. Mike hit the on button and the screen filled with a greyish-white light. And the lights dimmed for a moment. Two blurry creatures tore at each other in some sort of forest. The sound of claws tearing into soft flesh was so realistic that Mike's stomach started to churn. Must be a nature show or one about politics. No one laughed. Then the two creatures stopped clawing at each other and faced the screen. Mike had a strange feeling that the creatures were looking at him. A chill raced down his back. Yes, he was quite sure now. Robbie said, "Turn it off." Mike wanted to see what would happen next. The creatures started walking toward him. He could see them getting larger as they approached. "Change the channel," Shelley yelled. Mike hit the button and nothing happened. The creatures kept on moving closer. He tried to will his fingers to hit the power button, but they felt like lead blocks. Just as the creatures got close enough for Mike to get a detailed look at the bloody, oozing gashes that each monster had, Shelley snatched the remote from Mike's nerveless hand. "Sorry." She hit the power button, and the screen went blank. Well, Mike would have said something, but then he saw the plug for the TV lying on the floor. He looked at Robert, and Robert just shook his head. "Robbie, I think you should lock this door just to be careful," Shelley said as they left the room. Robert nodded and then walked past Shelley to lock the door. Again, Mike wondered what was going on. TV shouldn't be working without being plugged in. "Robbie, did you call the cable company about this?" "What's going on?" Mike said as they sat in the living room. Robert shook his head. "At first my landline and cell worked fine, but later on I started hearing whispering in the background on both, like there was another conversation. You know, like those old-timey party lines. Except I didn't feel like I was having any fun." Mike shrugged. "Yeah, I used to date a woman who did work with wireless phones. She said companies were always finding ways to get more data and limited lines. Maybe your service was just being too cheap, or it was a peak service time." Robert's eyes flicked to the empty table. "One time, I tried to call a friend and got something else. And yeah, I used the phone's memory, so the number was right." Shelley looked at Robert. "Something else?" Robert sighed. It growled, but that wasn't the worst thing. It sounded like... Robert stopped. A moment later, he started to sniffle. It sounded like Dad, but again, it wasn't him. It was like the worst part of him had answered the phone. Mike looked away. He fought back the memories of the day he'd driven away. It took him a few moments to gather his thoughts. "Why did you stay? The TV, the phones. Strange black things would have sent me packing a long time ago." Robert frowned. "Well, you were good at knowing when to throw in the towel." Shelley stood up. "Guys, let's not go there. I know why Robert stayed. You didn't believe any of the weird experiences were real. Like, oh, I must have seen something the wrong way." "Robert, why did you stay with him? You knew what he was doing to me. I don't blame you because you were a kid, but Mama," Mike said as his voice rose. "I don't know why you didn't or couldn't. But Mama, why? Why did she..." She loved him and you. It broke her up inside when the two of you didn't get along. Did you know if you'd stayed, you would have gotten a house? Robert replied. Mike's eyes widened a bit. What? He hated me. If you knew what he did to me. Robert looked down. One by one the words tore themselves out of his chest. Look, the night you ran away, Rob, Daddy, tried to kill himself. But we managed to talk him out of it. He stayed up all night as he cried and talked. Do you know what his greatest regret was? You. He shouldn't have hit you, but he was hurting so bad. No job and so many bills. Fighting a feeling of worthlessness every day. It wasn't about you. It never was. Mike opened his mouth and then closed it. He just didn't know what to say or do. All of the time he thought that Daddy had hated him. For some reason, all the great times they'd had, fishing and even learning how to cook, seemed to be like lies or just fairy tales. Things that were far from reality. Shelley sat down and just watched. Her big brown eyes took in every detail. Robert looked up. If you'd come back, you'd have seen a great change in Daddy. He went to some sort of therapy and got 2 jobs. Well, they were a big step down from someone that ran their own restaurant, but it was money that we needed. Still, things were pretty tight. Mama and I both got jobs, and we managed to make an okay life for ourselves. We got the mortgage paid off, so no bank could throw us out, and, well, a few years after that, Daddy died. Mike looked up too. His eyes stung, but he managed not to cry. Robbie, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Hey, I understand. Somehow you knew I was in trouble and you came. I'm glad you're here, brother, Robert said. Mike dug in his pocket for something to wipe his eyes, but there were no napkins. Oh, Shelley got up and offered him one of hers. Mike took one to wipe his eyes, while Shelley sat back down on the couch. Not to, dampen the moment, but we need to make some plans for tonight's sleep, Shelley said. I don't want to wake up and see those black things hanging over me. Sorry, Shelley, Robert said. Shelley waved her right hand dismissively. Hey, I'm black, but I'm not that black. Yeah, I get what you're saying. How about we camp out in the living room? You place a chair under the door to the TV and a bottle. Why? Robert asked. Mike nodded. Yeah, I saw that in a movie where Mel Gibson played a paranoid cabbie. If something pushes the chair, the bottle falls and breaks. I also suggest that someone stays awake just in case. Well, he hoped nothing would happen, but even thinking about what he'd seen gave him another chill. Some of the gashes were pretty deep. A scary thought suggested that maybe shooting the creatures wouldn't work. Shelley nodded. Okay, I'll stay up for 4 hours, then someone will have to relieve me. In the morning, we get out of here. Yeah. Well, I already have my bag packed, Robert said. Only one bag? Mike asked. I'm not a woman, and I can buy cooking utensils anywhere, Robert said, and then winked at Mike. You guys are so freaking cruel, Shelley said, and then laughed a little. That little bit of levity warmed everyone until the pillows and blankets were placed in the living room. They moved the couch and the table, so there was more than enough room for sleeping. Mike noticed that Robert didn't go upstairs to get his blankets and pillow. Well, he guessed that Robert didn't want to be alone. While they moved the furniture around so they could have more room for the blankets, Shelley smiled. Hey guys, it's going to be fun. Instead of being under siege by unknown threats, we could make it like a little slumber party. Robert shook his head. Well, I ate the last of the popcorn, and there's nothing left but cold water. Mike grimaced. Well, yeah, I doubt there's anything good on TV. Shelley sighed. It was kind of dramatic. No ghost stories either? I know this great one about a phantom crack hole. The combined glares from Mike and Robbie made Shelley shrug. Okay, I'll just take the first watch. After taking a white bedsheet from Robert and placing it on the floor, Mike looked around. He needed some time to think. Hey, Shelley, can I do the first watch? Shelley nodded. Mike sat on the couch while everyone else settled into their blankets on the floor. Then he got up to place a chair under the door, just in case. Nobody objected. It seemed kind of crazy, like something out of a horror movie, but no, he was actually living it, and wanted to continue. Then there were the revelations Robbie had dropped on him. It seemed so fantastical. The man he thought was a heartless monster was actually a person who suffered. Gingerly, he went back through his memories like a nervous soldier going through a minefield. The good memories felt good, but they provided a painful contrast against the bad ones. Of course, those were overlaid with a feeling of betrayal. Why would someone that loved him so much do such a terrible thing? Well, now he knew better, but his emotions, like a car speeding down a rain-slick road, will take time to slow down. And that's when he heard it. The sound of a bottle smashing itself against the floor. He looked at Shelley and Robbie. They were still like statues. For a moment, he wondered if they were alive. Something struck the door, causing a thunderous boom. A crack zigzagged down the center of the door. Mike looked at the two still sleepers and wondered what was wrong with them. Another blow hit the door and shattered it, flinging pieces of wood toward him. And something dark flew toward Mike. Mike woke up with sweat pouring down his face, and his gun pointed toward the door, ready to fire. Too bad, Shelley was in the way. Shelley recoiled from the gun in her face. Hey, if I knew making jokes about crack whores offended you, I would have joked about something else. Mike knew as he put his gun back in his holster that Shelley wasn't an ordinary person. She was definitely someone special. Probably someone in law enforcement, maybe. Sorry. Hey, no problem. Some folks don't like being woken up, Shelley said while she waved her hand dismissively. He looked at her pretty face. Sorry, I was dreaming that someone was smashing the door down. Shelley nodded. I dreamt that something had found a way to place the bottle on the floor and was seeping from under the door. Then it was slowly flowing to this door, and of course, I couldn't wake up fast enough. I dreamt I was in a butcher shop that sold human meat. That wasn't the weirdest part. I was getting hungry, Robbie said. Mike got up and stretched. Damn, no one got any sleep. I think we should just leave as soon as dawn comes. There was no dissent. He moved to the left side of the couch and sat down. After that all-too-real nightmare, Mike didn't want to risk sleeping again. So he tried to think about Shelley. He'd seen how civvies act, and she was pretty calm. Some cops would have bugged out by now. Again, he wondered about her. What was Shelley's story? Well, he must have fallen asleep at some point because he woke up to hear frenzied banging at the front door. Someone screamed. Hey, is anyone inside? Please, help me. The black things are coming. Mike looked at his watch. It was around 4 a.m. The sun still hadn't risen, so it was going to be dark outside. Then again, Robbie saw his black men, or whatever they were, during the daytime. He placed his hand on his gun and headed for the front door with Shelley and Robbie behind. When he got to the door, he wondered if there'd be a person or something horrible on the other side. Did he really want to know? Shelley looked around then, back at Mike. Please open the door. You wouldn't want some poor guy dying when you'd had a chance to save him. Mike reached for the top lock, but Robert brushed his hand away. Sorry. A moment later, the door was open, and this pale, skinny guy with dark hair and dark eyes was dragged in, and the door slammed shut and locked. Mike was surprised at how fast everything was done. The guy just stood there, shivering and looking around for a few moments. Thanks. Could feel them moving up on me, even though I couldn't see them. Mike narrowed his eyes. Who? I couldn't see them, but I could feel them. You know, like how when the hair on the back of your neck rises when something's watching. When can we leave? The guy asked. Glances were exchanged between Robert and Shelley. Mike just looked at the guy. It seemed like he was the real deal, not someone trying to trick them or something. He stuck out his right hand. Hey, I'm Mike Duchamp. The guy stuck out a shaking hand. Mitch Myers. What's going on? Robert and Shelley introduced themselves. Mike shook his head. Look, I don't know, but we're going to leave when the sun comes up. Mitch looked around. What if the sun doesn't rise? I mean, like it's cloudy or something. Shelley frowned. We'll leave anyway. Did you see anything while you were out there? I mean, earlier? Mitch looked around like he was trapped. Yeah. I was hitchhiking down to Miami and this guy lets me off near a dead area. It's so quiet. No dogs, birds, no bugs. But, I could feel like I was being watched. Shelley and Mike exchanged glances. Mitch saw that. What? You guys know something? Shelley glanced at Mike again. Yeah, we stopped for a moment in the dead zone before driving away. Not sure what was going on there, but we were happy to leave. Mike wondered if Shelley was still pissed at him. It seemed like such a dick move back then, but, well, he had apologized. Well, I started walking, but I kept feeling like something was pacing me, like it was deciding when to attack. Got lucky and found a bike. I wrote that, but it didn't help. Whatever was following me just moved faster. I hear the footsteps speed up, but if I look back, I'd just see like a quick glimpse of something heading for cover. Started riding faster. A few blocks from here, the bike broke. Almost hurt myself in the crash. Anyway, I checked out the bike. The rear tire had been slashed by something made of bone. Shouldn't have touched it. My hand went numb like I'd stuck it in a freezer for an hour. You ever seen one of those ninja throwing stars? Kind of looked like that, except it was made of bone and something else that made me queasy to look at. I just left the bike, ran as fast as I could until I found the house with the open door. Should have kept going, but I had to see if I could get help or something. The open door was the first clue. Second one was the trail of blood that led through the house. God, stupid, curious me. I had to follow it right to a TV. What the hell? The TV turned itself on. Well, I didn't stay to see what had happened next. Got out and, well, eventually I ended up here. Thanks. I probably wouldn't have made it till morning, Mitch said. Mike noticed that Mitch seemed to be much calmer after telling his story. Hey, you guys got anything to eat or drink? Mitch asked. Robert shook his head. When we get into town, dinner's on me. Guys, let's go back to the living room and get some more rest. Mitch frowned. After what I've been through, I don't know if I can sleep. Don't worry. You can just relax for a few hours, Shelley said. They trooped back to the living room. Oh, there weren't enough blankets, but Mitch didn't care. He just sat on the couch. Mike sat on the other side of the couch while Robert and Shelley went back to their blankets on the floor. After a few minutes, he felt his eyes close. A bottle broke somewhere. Mike clawed his way back to wakefulness. Somewhere in his sleep-addled brain, he knew this was important. Time to bail. We gotta go, Shelley screamed. Mike opened his eyes to see Shelley ready to shake him awake. Flick that safety off your gun. Come on, it's go time, she said, and then moved to Robert and Mitch. Robert was sitting up, but Mitch was taking too long to wake. That's when Mike heard the dragging, sliding footsteps in the hallway. Yes, it was going down. He was excited, but also very scared. Mitch finally woke up and stood next to Shelley while Robert pulled a big duffel bag from a dark corner. Let's get the fuck out of here, Robert said, and headed to the door that led to the kitchen. I'll keep the rear secure. The rest of you follow Robbie, Mike said. Shelley stood and frowned. No, I'll check the rear. We might need that gun later. For a moment, Mike thought about arguing, but something in Shelley's eyes confused him. Let me guess. You'll tell whatever's on the other side of the door, it shall not pass. It was so quick, that fleeting smile, but somehow it went straight to his groin. It felt right, like he'd guessed something close to the truth. Guys, you can do the kissy face later. Come on, we gotta go, Mitch said. Don't worry, I got a shotgun stashed near the door with lots of ammo. Right, let's go, Robert said, and opened the door. Mike followed Robert while Shelley and Mitch followed them. They were out before something banged on the door to the TV room. He hoped that they'd get out before the creatures entered the living room. Robert went to a cabinet and pulled out the shotgun. Then he placed a box of shells in his duffel bag. "Let's get to the car." Mike just hoped it was clean and oiled. "Yeah," he said, and got his gun ready. Behind them, the banging seemed to get more frenzied. Robert's hands flew over the locks, and everyone raced outside. And then he locked the door. For a moment, everything looked peaceful, even though the sky was covered in clouds. In the east, the sky was brightening up a bit. Mike hoped it was dawn. Even if the horrible things didn't care about sunlight, it did make it easier to see. The air seemed to get colder and heavier. The feeling of menace caused chills to run down Mike's back. "Oh shit, they're here," Mitch whispered. A river of darkness rose up from the ground around the car. It separated into a group of figures darker than night, with dead white eyes. One of them stuck its hand, or paw, Mike couldn't tell, into his car's grill. "Get away. Stop messing with my car," Mike said. Then he fired at one of the creatures. Nothing happened. Several of the creatures crept forward. "Do something, Robert. Shoot them," Mitch screamed, and then backed up. "Mike, give me a gun or we'll all die," Shelley said, and reached for Mike's gun. Mike looked at her. For a moment, he thought about not doing it, but then he gave her the gun as the black figures approached. Well, he wasn't sure, but he thought there was some kind of golden flash when she gave him back the gun. "Okay, shoot the bastards." Mike aimed between the eyes of the closest black monster and fired. It just faded away. The others stopped their slow crawl towards them. "Shelley, put some mojo on my shotgun to her, please," Robert said. A few moments later, Robert started firing too. The remaining black figures all just faded away. Mike reached behind his back for another clip and came up empty. "Oh, I'm out. Yeah, I hope that's it. Do you have enough ammo, Robert?" "Yeah, but I have to dig in my duffel bag for it," he said. And something banged on the door behind him. "Shit. Let's go," Mitch said while looking around. They headed to the car and got in. Mike started the car, but got nothing. Nothing but clicks from the engine. "Oh, that's not good." He checked the dashboard. "Battery's dead. Now what?" Oh shit. Can't wait for a jump," Mitch said while his eyes darted around frantically. The banging on the front door was speeding up. Mike knew it was only a matter of time before whatever was trapped inside got out. "Pop the hood," Shelley said. Mike frowned. "What?" "Pop the freaking hood while we got the time," Shelley screamed. Mike hit the button for the hood while Shelley got out of the car. She stood in front of the car while glancing at the engine. Mike wondered what she was going to do while she stood there. "Robbie, I think I can see a crack in your front door," Mitch screamed. Mike saw a blue flash, then the battery indicator moved away from no charge. It kept moving and stopped at a quarter charge, and that was enough for the car to start. Shelley slammed the hood shut and got back in. Mike started the car and stomped on the gas. The car tore down the road. He saw out of the corner of his eyes pieces of Robert's front door fly into the street. Nothing to be done about that unless whatever it is can run as fast as a car. Oh my God, what the hell is going on here? God, what if things are worse in New Orleans? We might be moving from the frying pan into a fire, Mitch said while still looking around. Mike wondered about that too. He also wondered about what Shelley was. She had some sort of... oh. He pushed that thought away. There's no such thing as magic. But he had seen things. Again, he pushed that thought back. Now is not the time for that. Shelley turned and looked at Mitch. She grinned at him. "Don't you like a good fight?" Best way to know what you're made of. Let the good times roll. Mitch flinched and cringed away from Shelley, like she'd grown fangs. Robert balled up his fist and stuck it near Shelley. Fuck yeah. Those bastards ruined my sleep and my life. Killed my neighbors. Yeah, I want payback. Shelley bumped his fist, and she turned to Mike. How about you, Mike? Looking for some good time? He glanced at her too wide smile. At first, the events of the day seemed strange and scary. Then he looked at his brother's face, and he saw the determination there. Whatever was going on, he was going to keep his brother safe and find out. He gave Shelley his own 1,000-watt smile. Laissez le bon temps rouler. Let the good times roll. Mitch squeaked. God, you guys are freaking nuts! As the car sped toward the dark, huddled buildings under a swirling green cloud.
And so once again, we reach the end of tonight's podcast. My thanks as always to the authors of those wonderful stories, and to you for taking the time to listen. Now, I'd ask one small favor of you. Wherever you get your podcast from, please write a few nice words and leave a 5-star review, as it really helps the podcast. That's it for this week, but I'll be back again same time, same place, and I do so hope you'll join me once more. Until next time, sweet dreams and bye-bye.